Hello folks, welcome. Liya Linux. And this is the Cinnamon Desktop. They actually offer two desktops. So the DE for this is Cinnamon, and it's slightly different from the Linux Mint Cinnamon Desktop. Linux Mint is the developer for the Cinnamon Desktop, but this is Liya Linux. It's an Arch-based distribution. You can see what kind of shell it's using also. And the kernel is 6.11. I will give you full system information if you care a little bit later. But generally, I'm just going to give you an overview of the system if you don't know anything about Liya. And I will also give you a mini tour. I'll give you some tips in case you install. You can certainly download and play with it. It does have a live medium, so you can test drive. In either case, I'm going to close the screen and say welcome. I have a subscription key in the corner and 450 plus videos, and I currently have comments turned off, and you can find out the reason why in my community tab if you care. Anyways, Liya Linux. So generally Linux Mint's panel bar looks a lot different than this one. Most of their application icons start over here. Liya's start in the middle. Okay, so this panel is broken down in 3 zones. Left, center, and right. I'll talk a little bit about that regarding tips. Let's first talk about the distro itself. I'm going to use DistroWatch for this. Now, I like DistroWatch for a couple of reasons. It culminates information like this, but I don't use the popularity factor. So Liya is an Arch-based distribution. So if you don't feel comfortable with terminal, I would skip this if you're going to try to test drive it and install. You can certainly test drive it. It's got a live medium, but if you're going to install it, again, if you're not comfortable with terminal. So again, this is an Arch-based distro, global. They offer 2 desktops, Cinnamon and Monte. All right, Liya, I'll come back to this in a second. The previous update was done on 5/16 of this year. The current release is 9/24. That was 4 days ago. Okay, it's a rolling release. Let's go to their website. So you can certainly download if you decide to install. My highest suggestion for you, though, is to scroll to the bottom of the screen and read this information. Okay, if you, again, you have to be a little bit more comfortable with terminal to perform these steps, but it says not necessary, may not be necessary. I found it necessary because I was getting nothing but GPG errors. So I perform these steps and not an issue. If you skip on this one, this is a very large command line, and you happen to trash your mirror list, you can recreate it. If you open up etc pacman.d and put in a text file in there, and it can be empty, just call it mirror list and reperform that command, it'll repopulate. But again, I recommend that you go through the settings. Moving along. So again, as I pointed out, the panel is a little different than the original Cinnamon Desktop. There's a Forums tab at the top, and I might as well start with Wallpapers, Backgrounds, where I click Backgrounds. Got quite a few nice looking backgrounds, as you can see, by default. The one that is actually the default one is this one. It's a bunch of ferns. If you decide to install, and but you can see there's a whole host of different kind of backgrounds. So there's 2 versions of this thing called Odin. There's a dark version and a light version. I'm going to switch back to Wallhaven, and don't forget there's slideshows in here. You can turn those on, and it'll cycle through these images. All right, so your panel bar is downstairs, and I'm going to turn off a feature that does not come installed, and that's extensions. It's called transparent panels. You can get it from downloads, and it is configurable. There's 3 modes. I'm going to turn that off. So I'm going to right click on the panel and just point this out to you. If you're not that familiar with a Cinnamon Desktop, there's 3 zones: left, center, and right. The center zone is where the application icons for Liya lays, With Linux Mint Cinnamon, they're over here on the left zone. So slight differences there. Starting with the left zone, the default fonts, I actually put this up here for you. This does not look like this, just as a reminder. But more importantly, that is the default font size. Right click, configure. All right. There's where you put your text in, and I'm only going to do this once. If you change something or if you delete the menu applet, this is the location of apps.svg. It's USR share pix maps, and the name of it is apps.svg. Because if you deactivate this applet and reactivate it, you will get the black cinnamon icon, and you may have a hard time finding that. Your menu can be configured. I changed mine to 33, 33, 43. That's the size of these icons. They will be smaller. There'll be 22, 22, and I think 32 on here. And you can always grab the corner and resize the box. All right. The left zone text is done here though, if you decided to put text in this box right here. If you want to call it your system, go ahead. But this is normally Control X, not there. That is all you'll see. But as a reminder, this is not a Linux Mint Cinnamon Desktop. This is Liya. Moving along, I'm going to change the text now to something larger. I automatically do this with Cinnamon desktops. And I do the same with the right zone. I change that because your right zone default is also that. And don't forget about the symbolic icon sizes if you want these larger. This number is going to be smaller than what you currently see on the screen. Moving along. Standard stuff with the icons. Again, these are applets, if I didn't make mention of that. And the one that I don't recommend turning off is this one right here. If you do, you'll lose the Liya icon and you'll get a black and white or a black cinnamon icon. And if you deactivate and hit the plus, it reappears over here to the left of your right zone icon, last icon, which will be over here. And then you'll have to either accept the cinnamon icon or go find that Liya icon. You can back the video up to look at the path. Okay, so I would just caution you when you deactivate these. There's lots of these, and you can read all about them. This is an extra cinnamon menu, and I will install it for you just to let you see it. This goes to cinnamon spices at linuxmint.com. Just remember, Linux Mint was the originator for this desktop. Close. Install, providing you're online. And scroll to the top and activate this. So this is a second Mint menu. You can also make this one large. You can also move the search field and the buttons over here to the top. It's very easy to do. Right click, configure, from bottom to top. Now the search feature is at the top and so is the power. And right click, configure. You can also change the icon itself. So again, if you deactivate the menu applet, this is your standard icon. That white looking cinnamon icon will be in this area here after you activate that. If you deactivate the menu applet, the one I recommended not to do. Anyways, you can certainly change that. Here's the Linux Mint logo. It's got others like Arch and Fedora, and just look at Ubuntu in there, and also Debian. Anyways, moving along. I'm going to remove that. And again, if you decided to actually reactivate it, it will reactivate with the default icon. And all your settings go back to default also. All right, turning that back off. And I'm dumping it. Going through the menus, just giving you a brief overview. Okay. It has uLauncher. If you don't know what that is, it's an application launcher. I wouldn't say it's definitely not the same as a Plasma desktop as far as when you start typing. But you can configure it with a two-stroke, let's say, I think Control and Spacebar is default after you activate that, and a little pop-up box will appear, and then you can start search if you want. This is normally off. 2 games get installed. I did have to reinstall Pix. All right, so if you feel comfortable using your software for Mac, you can open that, and there's a couple of versions of Pix. How I found this out is I opened the file manager and clicked on a photo and it wouldn't open. I knew there was something wrong with it. That's okay, I just dealt with it by reinstalling a different version. Not a big deal. Brave is your primary browser. It's a security-centric browser. If you're not familiar with Brave, it also has Tor for a little bit of privacy. I added Firefox. The rest of the stuff came installed. Office, other, you don't get that. That's something I created as a launcher. It's an instantaneous power off button. I'm not going to talk about that in this video. Anyway, simple screen I added. Your standard music player is that one. A couple of admin tools. It's got HTOP installed and also time shift. Now I decided to keep defaults when I installed Liya, which is BTRFS file format instead of extension 4. And I'll just open up time shift quickly. And again, this is BTRFS. If you're using extension 4, remote sync is normally the default, or rsync. Now, you never know when you need that because Liya is a rolling system. Something breaks, you roll it back to whenever. And that was manually done, so I just put in the word test. These are clickable, you can put comments in there. It makes 5 of those normally, and never mind. You can read the rest of that stuff. All right, where was I? Admin. Users and groups. Preferences I'll talk about in a minute. Places. Standard icons. And again, right-click, configure. Menu. You can change the sizes with these 3 categories. All right, placing icons on the desktop is pretty simple. I'll use the game here. I'll use the chess game. Usually right-click, add to panel is your best method. And then you can either click it open or click and drag and move it around. If you decide to drag the icon, I'll do one. Let's find something different. I already got those. Let's take Geary for a second. If you decide to drag that and put it down there, that will work, except sometimes it leaves a remnants on your desktop. And you don't have to log out of your system to correct this. It will do that though if you do. However, you just restart Cinnamon. There are 3 ways to restart Cinnamon. Right-click on your panel, troubleshoot, restart. This is one way, and it gets rid of that box. You can also use Alt and F2 small r, enter, and Control Alt and escape. All 3 methods will restart Cinnamon. I'm not going to edit this video. It doesn't mess up my video when I do restarting Cinnamon. As a matter of fact, it restarts Cinnamon all on its own sometimes. So if I were to go to General, you can see it restarts Cinnamon when it uses too much memory, and this is active. If you got tons of RAM, let's say you got 120 gigabytes of RAM, you may want to entertain turning that off. This is also off by default, and that has to do with your shutdown. If you want a quick timer on this, just slide that on. You'll have to close and reopen. I programmed mine for 17 seconds. You can put it to whatever, and it'll start counting down to 0. And then it'll shut down your system automatically unless you change your mind and hit cancel, restart, or something else. Anywho's. All right, might as well continue with this. Backgrounds, I think anyone can figure this one out. Effects, don't like them, turn them off. Font selection, increase them. Be sparing with the scale factor. Also, the scaling factor is affected when you use large text in here. That goes to 1.2 when you click that on. And the themes, you don't get the radioactive mouse cursor, but you do get the breeze light, and vanilla. These are installed in USR share icons. I don't recall if I threw that into USR share or dot icons. I don't recall. It doesn't matter. Mouse cursors usually only go in two places. Now on Linux Mint Cinnamon Desktop, you have more of these. I sometimes refer to these as button sets. It's just my pet name for them. But you get more of these with the Linux Mint Cinnamon Desktop. Again, this is Liya. And the same thing goes with the icon sets and desktops. You can certainly add more of these themes. I think there are 80 plus in here, and that's simple to do by hitting the plus key and then go back to here and find them. Large scroll bars is normally off. As you can see, I got mine set to 20. This is your default. I will open up. I don't think I have enough images in there. No, I don't. Let me resize that. No. I'll use the demo drive, and this is your normal size scroll bar, the width of it, the width, not the length. If I turn that on, that's usually default, is 10 pics. I will make that 20. And now I'll give you the difference. Just a quick tip if you like large scroll bars. Now you can see how wide that thing is. I normally don't. I just scroll with my computer mouse and it does the same thing as dragging this thing. Not a big deal. Okay, moving along. Accessibility, not going to talk about too many things other than maybe activating your visual indicator for your caps and numlock. If you don't have LEDs, sometimes it's hard to discern if they're on or off. It's nothing like failing logins because your caps lock key is on. You can also activate an applet for this. That applet in here is in the download section, and it is called Caps. This is one of the ones that I would recommend. However, when you install that and it's in Manage, activate it and then program it, because otherwise you won't see it. That's the caveat on that applet. All right, moving along. Applets again are found down here, and you can activate applets either in system settings or right-clicking. Applets are also here. This is a desklet, and the name of this desklet is Calendar Desklet. You can find it in Downloads, and this is fully configurable. You can change the color of the text, and also like Sunday, for instance. Here's the configuration box. You can see there's tons of options. All right, desklets. Desktops, if you're fond of seeing those icons, I'm not, but you can certainly activate your trash cans and other stuff. Extensions, I'm using transparent panels, so I might as well reactivate it. And when you do, then you can change that. You can find transparent panels in Downloads. It's about the only extension I use. And it has 3 modes. With shadow. It's hard to discern. Let me change the wallpaper to something neutral. And maybe not that color. This will be too white. It'll wash out my text. Maybe that one might work. Let's leave this up for a second. Anyways, that's with shadow. This is fully transparent. It'll give the illusion of the icons of floating. I personally like to do the semi-transparent. You can see a slight shadow in here. And that works well when you're dealing with especially something like that. Otherwise, this is semi-transparent. You can still see the white text because this is extremely light. However, with fully transparent, these look kind of washed out. Switching back, I'll use a different wallpaper this time. And close. And what is this thing? Oh, I think this is Yosemite Valley, California. I actually have an actual digital photo that I took almost from the same location. That's kind of ironic that I see this. Anyways, moving along, right click System Settings. I stopped off at Desktop and Extensions. So that was transparent panels. Now you can see the slight transparency. Your memory limit, Restart Cinnamon, is active and it triggers at this range. If you got tons of RAM, you want to entertain turning that off. Your power button, I have it currently set for 17 seconds. This normally is off by default. Okay. You can also create yourself tools like this one. That's a launcher. And I have different commands that I use for those kind of launchers for doing instantaneous power offs. And I have lots of videos and stuff like that. Anyways, gestures, hot, corners, and languages and notifications I'm skipping over. I think most of those are self-explanatory. The panel again is broken down in 3 zones, left, center, and right. The center zone is currently being used by Liya, and Linux Mint Cinnamon uses this side for their application icons. Preferred apps, fairly self-explanatory now. You can see the Exile music player, privacy, screensaver, just a black one. Startup apps, the updater notifier is off by default. Windows, if you want to move your buttons, it's done through here. And the Alt tab, I'll just demo something really quick. If you want a 3D effect, normally it's icon and thumbnails. Try cover flow. I'm going to use Alt and Tab. Okay, that's one. And then this one is timeline. Alt and Tab. It's cycling through open applications is what it's doing here. All right, so you have some choices, in other words. I'm going to close that game. And window tiling should be on by default. Don't like it, turn it off. Workspaces should be active by default. And let's see. What else? Bluetooth, color, not going to talk about. GNOME disk utility. Yeah, maybe the screen res. So if I switch to 4K, you can see the scaling modes. I'm not going to change anything, otherwise it terminates my video. But also don't forget about your refresh rates. So in my mode, I'm going to click back and click this open. And I'm going to do cancel changes. You can see that I can crank up the refresh rate if I have the capability. So it all depends on your monitors and graphic cards. Keyboard stuff, mouse stuff. This is not where you change your pointer, but also the size of your pointer is done in here. Your pointer themes are in here. And again, there's only a couple of places where that it gets it from the system. These are installed in USR share icons. You can certainly put your custom ones in there too if you like. It just needs root permissions when you're in there. Or you can install them in .icons in your home folder. All right, moving along. Startup apps, the notifier is off. Oh, maybe sound. If you find these annoying, turn them off. And firewall is UFW, comes deactivated. The login screen is not the same setup box as the Linux Mint Cinnamon Desktop. It's slightly different. And the other thing that you don't get on the Linux Mint is the managed services and units. That is not found on the Linux Mint Cinnamon Desktop. All right, just going to give you a quick peek on that one. And it should activate in a second here. Here we go. You can see the services running here. Anyways, closing. Software. It is per Mac if you want to do the point and click thing. And again, if you install this thing, I highly suggest going to their website, Liya's website, and perform those actions in terminal if you're getting GPG errors. A third-party AUR is enabled by default. I did not change anything else in here. So these are all default settings. They'll let you know, including the updates is off. That's simple to do. Refresh. The thing that I actually deleted and reinstalled was one of the Pix applications. There's a couple of different versions in here. Because that, when I clicked on the pictures, and you do get these by default, I'm using the spacebar to get a preview. So dried leaf and lightning strikes, spacebar to preview, going full screen. These here, you do get by default. And they weren't open, when I double clicked them, it wouldn't open this in Pix. That's why I reinstalled it. So if you have that affliction, it's not a major thing, go ahead and do that. The other thing I noticed, if I activate the show thumbnail tool, sometimes it's a little glitzy, not a showstopper, but a little bit of glitzy. Scroll up, scroll back with your computer mouse, holding down the control key if you don't like to use that. Double click, click and hold, let go, pull it down with your computer mouse instead of using that button there. And there's a direct relationship with your plugins, and right-click, system settings, and this tool right here called actions. Anytime you deactivate something in here that you see in this menu, we'll also deactivate that immediately. I will do the minus thing. You can see it disappearing. Now, when I right-click, I don't have change desktops. I don't know why you'd want to turn some of these off, but you can see what I'm talking about. All right, I'm not going to go through the rest of the file manager. I think most people can figure this out. So in either case, changing backgrounds is a piece of cake, and you can also pick your own photos, and they've got some nice ones. I think this is also Yosemite. I could be wrong. But in either case, I will go to Wallhaven for a second. I think even Windows 11 uses these kind of backgrounds. In either case, I will say thank you for watching.